Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship. The U's Valiant was the newest ship in the human fleet. It had been flying through space for 3 months now, looking for new worlds to explore. Jake liked the quiet of deep space. It gave him time to think about how far humans had come since first leaving Earth. The bridge was calm that morning. The crew worked at their stations, checking instruments and watching the stars. Jake sipped his coffee and looked out at the black void. Ahead, space was beautiful but dangerous. Every human who traveled between the stars knew this truth. "Captain, we have something," said Lisa Park from her station. She was the communications officer, a young woman who had joined the fleet 2 years ago. Her voice was excited, but worried. Jake walked over to her station. "What is it, Lisa?" "A signal, sir. It's coming from the Kepler 442 system. The computer says it's a distress call." Lisa's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "It's using the universal math language that all space-traveling races use." Jake felt his stomach tighten. Distress calls in deep space were serious business. Ships could be lost forever out here. "Can you tell who sent it?" Lisa worked for a few more seconds. Her face went pale. "Sir, it's from the Zelani Republic. They're asking for help." The news hit Jake like a punch to the gut. The Zelani were humanity's first alien friends. They had met humans 5 years ago when human explorers first left their home solar system. The Zelani were peaceful people who lived on a world with light gravity and perfect weather. They had welcomed humans with open arms. "What's the message?" Jake asked. Lisa put the signal on the main speakers. The voice that came through was soft and musical, the way all Zelani voices sounded. But this voice shook with fear. "This is Ambassador Keltan of the Zelani Republic. We are under attack by ships we do not recognize. They call themselves the Hive Collective. Our defense fleets are failing. Our cities are burning. We need help immediately. Please, anyone who receives this message. We are dying." The bridge went silent. Jake had never heard a Zelani sound so afraid. These were people who had never fought a war in their history. They solved problems by talking, not fighting. "How far away are they?" Jake asked. 2 days at maximum speed." "Sir," reported Ryan Torres from the navigation station. Jake made his decision quickly. "Set course for Kepler 442. Maximum burn. And send a message to Admiral Cole. Tell her we need the entire fleet." The crew moved fast. The ship's engines roared to life, pushing the Valiant toward the Zelani system. Jake called Admiral Patricia Cole, the leader of the human fleet. She was a tough woman who had served in Earth's military for 20 years before joining the space fleet. "Admiral, we have a situation," Jake said when her face appeared on the screen. "I heard the message, Captain. I'm already moving the fleet. We'll rendezvous at the edge of the Kepler 442 system in 36 hours. What do we know about this?" "Hive Collective?" Jake asked. The Admiral's face was grim. "Nothing good. I've been checking our databases. There are reports from the Outer Rim about ships that look like giant insects. They attack without warning and leave nothing alive behind." "Them?" Jake felt cold. "How many ships do we have?" 12 ships total. Not much of a fleet, but it's what we have." After the call ended, Jake stood alone on the bridge. 12 human ships against an unknown enemy. The odds were not good. But humans had faced bad odds before. Lisa Park approached him. "Captain, I've been monitoring other communications. The Galactic Council received the same distress call we did. Are they sending help?" "No, sir. They voted to stay away. They say the Hive Collective is too dangerous." Jake was not surprised. The other alien races in the galaxy were cautious. They had evolved on safe worlds where predators were rare. They did not understand what it meant to fight for survival. "Sir," said Ryan from his station, "we're getting more messages from the Zalani system. The attacks are getting worse." Jake listened to the new messages. The Zalani were begging for help. Their voices were full of pain and fear. Children were crying in the background. Cities were falling one by one. "How long until we reach them?" Jake asked. 47 hours, sir." Jake hoped they would not be too late. The Zalani had been good friends to humanity. They had shared their technology and knowledge freely. They had never asked for anything in return except friendship. The ship flew through space at maximum speed. The engines pushed hard, making the hull shake. Jake walked through the corridors, talking to his crew. They were scared, but determined. Every human on the ship knew what was at stake. "Captain," said Chief Engineer Sam Carter, "the engines are running hot. We're pushing them harder than they were designed for." "Can they handle it?" "Yes, sir. These engines were built on Earth. They're tough." Jake smiled at that. Everything built on Earth was tough. It had to be. Earth was a dangerous world where volcanoes erupted, earthquakes shook the ground, and storms could destroy entire cities. Humans had learned to build things that could survive anything. As the hours passed, more messages came from the Zalani system. Each one was worse than the Mai. Last, the hive ships were massive, bigger than anything the Zalani had ever seen. They fought like wild animals, showing no mercy. "Sir," Lisa said quietly, "the last message came in an hour ago. Since then, nothing." Jake stared at the stars ahead. Were they too late? Had the Zalani already been destroyed? "We keep going," he sighed. "We don't abandon our friends." The Valiant raced through space, carrying hope to a dying world. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. 12 ships appeared in the darkness, their engines glowing blue against the black void. Admiral Patricia Cole stood on the bridge of the U.S. Guardian, looking at the sensor readings with growing anger. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Commander Ryan Torres. He was the tactical officer, a man who had seen many battles. But nothing had prepared him for this sight. The Zalani home world was surrounded by enemy ships. They were huge, each one the size of a small city. The ships looked like they were alive, with curved surfaces that pulsed with strange lights. They moved through space like giant insects, slow but deadly. "Count them," Admiral Cole ordered. 137 enemy ships, Admiral," reported the sensor officer. "They're all focused on the planet." Cole could see the beautiful crystal cities of the Zalani burning. The peaceful people who had welcomed humanity into the galaxy were being destroyed. Smoke rose from the planet's surface like dark fingers, reaching toward space. "Are there any Zalani ships left?" she asked. "A few, Admiral. Maybe 20. They're hiding behind the planet's moons." The Admiral activated the fleet communication system. All 12 human captains could hear her voice. "This is Admiral Cole. You can all see what we're facing. The odds are bad. These hive ships are bigger than anything we've ever fought. But I want you to remember something. We're not like the other races in the galaxy. We come from Earth." Captain Jake Morrison listened from the bridge of the Valiant. Around him, his crew prepared for battle. They checked weapons, ran diagnostics, and said quiet prayers. "Earth is a death world," the Admiral continued. "We survived ice ages that would have killed other species. We lived through asteroid impacts that destroyed most life on our planet. We fought predators that were bigger and stronger than us. We're still here because we never give up." The hive ships had noticed the human fleet. They were turning away from the planet, moving to intercept the newcomers. Their formation was perfect, like a swarm of insects responding to a threat. "The enemy is coming to us," reported Captain Danny Wright from the UES Ranger. "They're moving in attack formation, Admiral Cole smiled grimly. Good. Let them come. All ships, prepare for combat. Remember, we're not here to run away. We're here to fight. The hive ships moved slowly, but steadily toward the humans. They expected the small fleet to retreat, just like every other species had done. The hive collective had conquered dozens of worlds using fear and overwhelming numbers. But the humans did something unexpected. They accelerated toward the enemy. All ships, attack speed, Admiral Cole ordered. Show them what humans can do. The 12 human ships roared forward, their engines burning at maximum power. The acceleration was crushing. Most alien species could not survive the G-forces that humans endured regularly. But humans had evolved on a world where gravity was. Strong and survival meant being tough. Captain Morrison felt the acceleration push him back in his chair. Around him, his crew worked calmly despite the crushing force. They had trained for this. Every human in the fleet had pushed their bodies to the limit in training. The enemy ships are confused, reported the tactical officer. They're not used to prey that charges at them. The human ships spread out as they approached the hive fleet. Each captain chose their own target, trusting their training and instincts. This was another thing that made humans different. Other species fought in rigid formations, following predetermined plans. Humans adapted and improvised. This is Commander Beth Hayes, came a voice over the communication system. She was leading the fighter squadron from the U.E.'s Guardian. Ghost Squadron is going in first. We'll punch holes in their formation. The fighters were small, fast ships piloted by humans, who had grown up racing through Earth's dangerous skies. They dove toward the hive ships like hawks attacking prey. The hive ships fired their weapons. Beams of energy lanced through space, trying to destroy the attacking humans. But the human ships moved like living things, dodging and weaving through the enemy fire. Their weapons are powerful, but slow, reported Captain Morrison. They're not used to fighting fast, aggressive enemies. The first human ship reached the hive formation. It was the U.E.'s Defiant, commanded by Captain Lisa Park. She had been promoted after showing exceptional skill in previous battles. Her ship was small compared to the hive vessels, but it was fast and well-armed. Beginning attack run, she reported. Her voice was calm and steady. The Defiant flew straight at a hive ship that was 5 times its size. The enemy vessel fired everything it had, but the human ship was already moving, sliding sideways through space in a maneuver that would have been impossible for most alien crews. The Defiant's weapons fired, punching holes in the hive ships. Organic hull. Green fluid sprayed out into space. The enemy ship shuddered and began to list to one side. Direct hit. Captain Park reported, their hull is weaker than it looks. The other human ships pressed their attack. They moved through the hive formation like wolves hunting in a pack. Each ship supported the others, covering weak points and exploiting opportunities. The hive ships tried to respond, but they were not prepared for this kind of warfare. They had expected the humans to maintain distance and trade long-range shots. Instead, they found themselves in a close-quarters battle with opponents who seemed to thrive on chaos. The enemy is falling back, reported Captain Wright. They're trying to regroup. But the humans did not give them time. Admiral Cole ordered a full assault. The 12 human ships attacked with a fury that shocked the hive collective. They used weapons and tactics that other species had never tried. In space combat, Captain Morrison watched his crew work with pride. They moved with the precision of a machine, but the creativity of artists. Each person knew their job and did it perfectly, even while under crushing acceleration and enemy fire. Sir, reported the weapons officer, we're running low on ammunition for the main guns. Then we'll get closer, Morrison replied. Switch to mining charges. The mining charges were explosive devices normally used to break apart asteroids. Number. one had ever thought to use them as weapons in space combat. But humans had always been creative with their tools. The U's Valiant flew close to a hive ship and released its mining charges. The explosions tore through the organic hull, causing massive damage. The enemy ship began to break apart, its biomechanical systems failing. All across the battle zone, human ships were winning individual fights against much larger opponents. The hive ships were powerful, but slow to adapt. They had never faced an enemy that fought with such intensity and innovation. "Admiral," reported the sensor officer, "the enemy fleet is starting to break formation. They're confused." Cole nodded. "Keep the pressure on them. Don't let them think." The battle raged on, but the tide was turning. The humans were proving that size and numbers were not everything. Sometimes the will to fight was more important than raw power. The battle had been going on for 4 hours. The space around the Zelani homeworld was filled with debris from destroyed ships. Green fluid from the hive vessels mixed with metal fragments from human ships. The humans were winning, but they were paying a price. Captain Danny Wright watched his ship's hull breach warnings flash red on his screen. The U.S. Ranger had taken heavy damage from a hive ship's energy beam. Half his crew was working to repair the damage, while the other half kept fighting. "Sir, we've lost main power to the forward weapons," reported his weapons officer. Wright looked at the massive hive ship in front of them. It was wounded, but still dangerous. Its biomechanical hull was cracked and leaking, but it continued to fire at the human ships. "How close can we get to that ship?" Wright asked his pilot. "Sir, if we get too close, we'll be in range of their close defense weapons." Wright smiled grimly. "That's exactly where I want to be." All hands prepare for ramming speed. The crew looked at him with surprise. Ramming enemy ships was not a normal tactic in space combat. Most species considered it suicidal. But humans had different ideas about what was possible. "Sir, are you sure about this?" asked his first officer. "The Ranger was built for asteroid mining," Wright replied. "Our hull is reinforced for impact. That hive ship's hull is organic. Let's see which one is stronger." The U.S. Ranger accelerated toward the enemy ship. The hive vessel fired everything it had, but the human ship kept coming. Wright's crew held. And as their ship shook from enemy fire, "Brace for impact." Wright shouted. The Ranger hit the hive ship like a spear. The reinforced bow of the human ship punched through the organic hull with a sound like breaking bones. The enemy ship shuddered and began to break apart. "Boarding teams, go," Wright ordered. This was another tactic that shocked the hive collective. Other species fought their battles from a distance, using energy weapons and missiles. They avoided close combat whenever possible. But humans had evolved from hunters who killed their prey with their bare hands. Colonel Alex Thompson led the boarding party. He was a big man who had served in Earth's military before joining the space fleet. His team of Marines wore heavy armor and carried weapons designed for close combat. "Remember, we don't know what these things look like up close," Thompson told his team as they prepared to board the enemy ship. "Stay together and watch each other's backs." The Marines entered the hive ship through the breach created by the ramming. The interior was dark and humid, with walls that seemed to pulse like living tissue. Strange lights moved through the organic. Corridors like blood through veins. "This place gives me the creeps," muttered Sergeant Maria Santos. She was a small woman, but tough as nails. She had grown up in the dangerous streets of Earth cities, where survival meant being faster and smarter than your enemies. The first hive creatures they encountered were unlike anything in the human databases. They looked like giant insects, with multiple limbs and compound eyes. They moved quickly, but their limbs were thin and fragile. "Open fire," Thompson ordered. The Marines' weapons were designed for Earth's dangerous wildlife. They fired heavy. Bullets that could stop a charging bear or a pack of wolves. Against the hive creatures, they were devastatingly effective. "They're falling back," Santos reported. "These things aren't built for close combat." The hive creatures had evolved for space warfare, not hand-to-hand fighting. Their limbs were designed for operating ship controls, not for combat. Against humans who had evolved from persistence hunters, they were helpless. Thompson's team fought their way through the ship, destroying everything they found. The hive creatures retreated deeper into the vessel, trying to escape the human assault. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the UES Valiant, Chief Engineer Sam Carter was studying the sensor readings from the boarded ship. He was a quiet man who had spent his life building and fixing machines, but he had a gift for understanding how things worked. "Captain Morrison," he called out, "I'm seeing something interesting." "What is it, Sam?" "These hive ships aren't just machines. They're alive. They have nervous systems, like giant animals. And I think I know how to hurt them." Morrison walked over to Carter's station. "Show me." Carter pointed to the sensor display. "See these energy patterns? They're nerve impulses. The whole ship is controlled by a biological brain. If we can overload that brain with feedback, we can paralyze the entire ship. How do we do that? Mining explosives. If we detonate them at the right spots, we can send shock waves through the ship's nervous system. It would be like giving the ship a massive seizure." Morrison nodded. "Do it." Carter worked quickly, reprogramming the mining explosives to create maximum neural feedback. It was a technique that had never been tried before. Other species used clean energy weapons that destroyed targets efficiently. Humans used whatever worked, no matter how crude it seemed. The explosives detonated deep inside the hive ship. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The entire vessel began to convulse, its biomechanical systems going haywire. Lights flashed randomly, and the ship's movement became erratic. "It's working!" Carter shouted. "The ship is shutting down." Colonel Thompson and his Marines felt the ship shake around them. The hive creatures stopped fighting and began to flee. In panic, their ship was dying, and they could feel it. "All teams, evacuate now," Thompson ordered. "This ship is going down." The Marines fought their way back to their boarding craft as the hive ship continued to convulse. They escaped just as the massive vessel finally went dark, its biological systems failing completely. Across the battle zone, other human ships began using the same technique. Captain Lisa Park's crew detonated mining charges inside another hive ship, causing it to shut down. Captain Wright's damaged ship managed to disable a third enemy vessel using the neural feedback method. "Admiral," reported the sensor officer, 12 enemy ships are down. The others are starting to retreat." Admiral Cole watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The hive fleet was breaking apart. Ships that had seemed invincible were now fleeing in panic. "All ships, pursue and destroy," she ordered. "We can't let them escape to attack other worlds." The human fleet gave chase. Their ships were faster and more maneuverable than the hive vessels. One by one, they caught up with the retreating enemy ships and destroyed them. Lieutenant Nina Foster, weapons officer on the U's Valiant, targeted the fleeing ships with precision. She had trained on Earth's shooting ranges, where accuracy was everything. Her shots found their targets, even as the enemy ships tried to escape. "Another one down," she reported as a hive ship exploded in a ball of green fire. The battle was turning into a rout. The hive collective had expected an easy victory against a small human fleet. Instead, they were being systematically destroyed by opponents who fought with a ferocity they had never encountered. "Sir," reported Ensign Gary Mitchell from the sensor station, "the remaining enemy ships are breaking apart." Their hulls can't handle the stress of emergency acceleration. Captain Morrison watched the enemy ships fall apart as they tried to escape. The organic hulls that had seemed so strong were actually fragile when pushed beyond their limits. They're not used to fighting for their lives, he said quietly. They've always been the predators. They don't know how to be the prey. The last few hive ships that managed to escape would carry news of the battle back to their collective. They would tell of a species that fought with impossible courage, that turned mining tools into weapons, and that never gave up no matter how bad the odds. The human fleet had won a victory that would be remembered across the galaxy. The space around the Zalani homeworld was quiet for the first time in days. Broken pieces of hive ships drifted through the void like dark metal clouds. The green fluid that had leaked from the destroyed vessels was already freezing in the cold. Of Space Admiral Patricia Cole stood on the bridge of the UES Guardian, watching the sensor displays. Most of the hive fleet had been destroyed, but 30 ships were still trying to escape. They were moving away from the system as fast as their damaged hulls could carry them. "Should we let them go, Admiral?" asked Captain Jake Morrison over. The communication system Cole thought about it for a moment. The smart thing would be to let the survivors escape. The human fleet had won a great victory, but they were tired and low on ammunition. Their ships were damaged, and their crews needed rest. But Cole remembered the burning cities on the Zalani world below. She thought about the peaceful people who had welcomed humanity into the galaxy with open arms. The Hive Collective had tried to destroy them for no reason except cruelty. "No," she said firmly. "We chased them down, all of them." The human fleet moved to intercept the escaping hive ships. The enemy vessels were larger and more heavily armed, but they were also slower and less maneuverable. The humans had learned their weaknesses during the battle. Captain Danny Wright's ship, the Hughes Ranger, was badly damaged from the ramming attack. Half his crew was working to repair the hull breach, while the other half kept the ship running. But Wright was not going to miss the chance to finish the job. "Sir, we're pushing the engines beyond safe limits," reported his chief engineer. "How long can they hold?" Wright asked. "Maybe 20 minutes at this speed. That's all we need." The Ranger caught up with a fleeing hive ship. The enemy vessel was leaking fluids from multiple hull breaches, but it was still dangerous. Its weapons turned toward the approaching human ship. "Evasive maneuvers," Wright ordered. The Ranger danced through space, avoiding the enemy fire. The pilot was a young woman named Carol Davis, who had grown up racing small aircraft through Earth's mountain ranges. She knew how to make a ship do things that the designers never intended. "Get us close to their engine section," Wright told her. "Yes, sir. Hold on." The Ranger dove toward the hive ship's rear section. The enemy vessel tried to turn and bring its main weapons to bear, but it was too slow. The human ship was already inside its firing arc. "Fire everything we have left," Wright ordered. The Ranger's remaining weapons fired at point-blank range. The mining charges and modified missiles tore through the hive ship's organic hull. The enemy vessel shuddered and began to break apart. "Another one down," Wright reported to the fleet. Across the battle zone, other human ships were having similar success. The hive vessels were demoralized and confused. They had never faced an enemy that pursued them so relentlessly. And something unexpected happened. One of the larger hive ships stopped running and turned back toward the human fleet. It was massive, easily twice the size of the others. Its hull was covered in strange markings that seemed to glow with their own light. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from that large ship," reported the communications officer. Cole was surprised. The Hive Collective had never tried to communicate before. They had always attacked without warning, consuming everything in their path. "Put it through," she ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was unlike anything the humans had heard before. It was deep and resonant, like the sound of wind through a cave. But there was something else in it, something that made the crew feel cold. We are the Hive. We are eternal. We have consumed 1,000 worlds and their peoples. You cannot stop us. Admiral Cole stepped forward. This is Admiral Patricia Cole of the Terran Defense Force. You attacked our friends. You burned their cities and killed their people. We're going to make you pay for that. You are young and foolish, the voice replied. Your species has only just left its home world. We have traveled the stars for 10,000 years. Submit now, and your death will be quick. Cole laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. You picked the wrong species to threaten. We don't submit to anyone. The large hive ship moved toward the human fleet. Its weapons were more powerful than the others, and its hull was thicker. But it was also slower and less maneuverable. All ships concentrate fire on that big one, Cole ordered. Show them what happens when they threaten Earth's children. The human fleet attacked the command ship with everything they had. Their weapons had been designed for mining and construction, but they were deadly effective in combat. The mining. Charges punched through the thick hull, while the modified missiles targeted the ship's nervous system. The Hive command ship fought back with weapons that could destroy a planet. Beams of energy lanced through space, trying to vaporize the attacking humans. But the human ships were small and fast, darting in and out of the enemy's firing range. Captain Morrison led his ship, the Hughes Valiant, in a direct assault on the command ship's bridge section. His crew worked with the precision of a machine, each person knowing exactly what to do. Targeting the nerve cluster, reported Lieutenant Nina Foster from the weapons station. Fire when ready, Morrison replied. The Valiant's weapons fired at the exact moment when the ship was closest to the enemy. The mining charges detonated inside the command ship's brain center, sending shock waves through its entire nervous system. The effect was immediate. The massive ship began to convulse, its movements becoming erratic. The weapons stopped firing, and the hull began to crack along its length. We got it, Foster shouted. The command ship broke apart slowly, like a giant animal dying. Pieces of its hull drifted away into space, and the strange lights that had covered its surface went dark one by one. The other ships are stopping, reported the sensor officer. They're not moving anymore. Admiral Cole watched the remaining hive ships drift helplessly through space. With their command ship destroyed, they seemed lost and confused. Some of them began to self-destruct rather than face capture. Let them go, Cole said quietly. The ones that survive will carry word back to their collective. They'll tell them what happens when you attack humanity's friends. The human fleet regrouped near the Zalani home world. The battle was over, but the work was just beginning. The planet below had been badly damaged, and the Zalani people needed help. All ships begin rescue operations, Cole ordered. Medical teams to the planet's surface. Engineering teams to help repair the damage. Captain Morrison looked at his tired crew. They had fought for hours against impossible odds and won. But now they had to help their friends rebuild. Good work, everyone, he said. Now let's go help the Zalani. The human ships moved toward the wounded planet. Behind them, a wreckage of the Hive fleet drifted in the darkness. The few survivors that had escaped would carry news of the battle to the far corners of the galaxy. They would tell of a species that fought with the fury of wild animals, that turned mining tools into weapons of war, and that never abandoned their friends no matter how bad the odds. The Hive Collective had learned a hard lesson about the people from the death world called Earth. The galaxy would never be the same. 3 days after the battle, the human fleet was still in orbit around the Zalani home world. The beautiful crystal cities that had once sparkled in the sunlight were now broken and dark. But the Zalani people were alive, and that was what mattered. Most. Captain Jake Morrison, stood in the ruins of the capital city, watching human and Zelani teams work together to clear the debris. The humans had brought medical supplies, food, and construction equipment. The Zelani had welcomed them with tears of gratitude. Captain Morrison called a soft voice behind him. He turned to see Ambassador Kelton, the leader of the Zelani Republic. The alien was tall and graceful, with pale blue skin and large, gentle eyes. But now those eyes were filled with sadness for his people's losses. "Ambassador," Morrison said, bowing slightly, "how can we help?" "You have already done more than we could ever ask," Kelton replied. "When we sent our distress call, we did not really expect anyone to come. The other species in the galaxy told us we were doomed." Morrison looked at the human medical teams treating wounded Zelani in the street. Dr. Ellen Brooks was working on a young Zelani child who had been injured when a building collapsed. The child was scared, but Dr. Brooks spoke to him gently while she worked. "We don't abandon our friends," Morrison said simply. "But why?" Kelton asked. "Your fleet was small. You were outnumbered more than 10 to 1. Any reasonable species would have stayed away." Morrison smiled. "Maybe that's the problem. We're not reasonable. We're human." The ambassador looked confused. "I do not understand." "The other species in the galaxy evolved on safe worlds," Morrison explained. "They learned to be careful, to avoid danger, to think before they act. We evolved on Earth. And Earth is different? Earth tried to kill us every day for millions of years. Volcanoes, earthquakes, ice ages, asteroid impacts, predators bigger than our ships. We survived by being stubborn, by fighting back, by never giving up. It's what we do." Kelton was quiet for a moment. "The Galactic Council says your species is too aggressive, too dangerous. They fear you." "Good," Morrison said. "Maybe they should fear us, but you don't have to. We're friends." Admiral Patricia Cole's voice came over Morrison's communicator. "Jake, we're getting reports from across the galaxy. News of the battle is spreading fast." Morrison excused himself from the ambassador and walked to a quiet area. "What kind of reports?" "The Hive Collective is retreating from 3 different star systems. The survivors from our battle told them about us. They're scared." "What about the other species?" "Mixed reactions. Some are grateful. Others are worried about what we might do next. The Galactic Council wants to meet with us." Morrison was not surprised. The human victory had changed everything. For the first time in galactic history, someone had defeated the Hive Collective in open battle. The other species did not know what to make of it. "Are we going to the meeting?" he asked. "I think we have to," Cole replied. "The galaxy needs to understand what we're about." 2 weeks later, Admiral Cole stood before the Galactic Council on the neutral world of Kepler 438b. The council chamber was a massive dome filled with representatives from dozens of species. They all looked nervous. The council president was a tall, thin creature with 4 arms and skin like tree bark. He spoke in a voice that sounded like wind through leaves. "Admiral Cole, your species has caused quite a stir in the galaxy. The Hive Collective has been a threat for decades. Many worlds have fallen to their attacks. Yet you defeated them with only 12 ships." "We did what needed to be done," Cole replied. "But at what cost?" asked another council member. "Your tactics were extremely aggressive. You used weapons that other species consider too dangerous for space combat. You rammed enemy ships and boarded them for hand-to-hand combat." Cole looked around the chamber. She could see fear in the eyes of many representatives. They were afraid of what humans might do next. "The Hive Collective was destroying our friends," she said. "They were burning cities full of innocent people. We used whatever tactics worked." "But what if you decide that other species are threats?" the council member continued. Your weapons and tactics could be used against anyone. Cole stepped forward. Let me tell you something about humans. We don't start fights, but when someone hurts our friends, we finish them. A new voice spoke from the back of the chamber. It was Ambassador Keltan of the Zelani Republic. He had come to speak for humanity. If I may address the council, he said politely. The president nodded. You may speak, Ambassador. Keltan walked to the center of the chamber. 3 weeks ago, my people were dying. Our cities were burning. We sent a distress call to every species in the galaxy. Do you know how many ships came to help us? The chamber was silent. 12, Keltan continued. 12 human ships against more than 100 enemy vessels. They came because we asked for help. They fought because we were their friends. They won because they refused to give up. Another council member spoke up. But their methods saved my people, Keltan interrupted. While you sat in your safe systems debating whether it was worth the risk, humans were dying to protect us. They asked for nothing in return except our friendship. Cole nodded gratefully to the Zelani ambassador. We're not conquerors, we're protectors. If you leave peaceful species alone, you'll never have trouble with us. But if you attack our friends... She left the threat unfinished, but everyone in the chamber understood. The council president leaned forward. What do you want from us, Admiral? Recognition, Cole said simply. We want the Terran Defense Force to be recognized as a peacekeeping organization. When peaceful species are threatened, we want the right to protect them. And if we refuse, Cole shrugged, then we'll do it anyway. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Someone needs to stand up for the innocent. The council voted that day. It was not unanimous, but it was enough. The Terran Defense Force was officially recognized as a peacekeeping organization. Humanity had earned its place in the galaxy through courage and sacrifice. 6 months later, Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of his new ship, the UES Defender. It was bigger and more powerful than the Valiant, designed specifically for protecting other species. Around him, construction crews were building more ships in Earth's orbital shipyards. Captain, we're receiving a distress call, reported his new communications officer, Lieutenant Tom Bradley. Where from? The Arcturus system. A species called the Vegan Union is under attack by pirates. Morrison smiled. Set course for Arcturus. Maximum speed. The word had spread across the galaxy. When peaceful species were in trouble, they called for help from the humans. Earth's children would answer that call, no matter how far they had to travel or how dangerous the mission might be. Dr. Ellen Brooks, now the fleet's chief medical officer, filed her final report on the Zelani rescue mission. She wrote, "The other species in the galaxy evolved on worlds that were safe and predictable. They learned to avoid conflict and seek peaceful solutions. These are admirable traits, but they have a weakness. When faced with pure evil, sometimes the only answer is superior firepower delivered by people who refuse to back down. Humans evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. We learned to fight back against impossible odds. We learned to protect our friends and destroy our enemies. These traits make other species nervous, but they also make us the best protectors the galaxy has ever seen. The Hive Collective learned what happens when you threaten humanity's friends. Pirates, slavers, and other predators are learning the same lesson. The galaxy is becoming a safer place because Earth's children refuse to let evil triumph." Admiral Cole stood in her office overlooking Earth's blue oceans. Ships were launching every day, carrying human crews to distant stars. Some were explorers, seeking new worlds and new knowledge. Others were defenders, answering calls for help from species under threat. On her desk was a message from the Zelani Republic. It was an invitation to their annual Festival of Friendship, where they honored those who had saved their world. Similar. Invitations came from dozens of other species that humans had helped. The nameplate on her desk had been a gift from Captain Morrison. It read, Admiral Patricia Cole, Guardian of the Galaxy. Below that, in smaller letters, it said, Earth's children never abandon their friends. Cole looked out at the stars and smiled. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but it was also full of good people who deserved protection. As long as humans flew among the stars, those people would never stand alone. The Hive Collective had retreated to the far rim of the galaxy, their expansion stopped by the knowledge that humans would come for them if they attacked again. Pirates thought twice before raiding peaceful worlds, knowing that Earth's defenders might appear without warning. Other species might evolve on Garden, worlds where life was easy and safe. But sometimes the galaxy needed people who had learned to fight, in hell and win. Sometimes it needed the children of Earth, the death world that had forged the toughest protectors the stars had ever seen. The human fleet had answered one distress call and changed the galaxy forever. They had proven that courage and determination could overcome any odds. Most importantly, they had shown that some things, like friendship and protecting the innocent, were worth fighting for no matter what the cost. In the years that followed, children across the galaxy would hear stories.